The BBC is preparing to announce a deal to end its row with the football presenter Gary Lineker, which would see him return to Match of the Day.
Yes, an agreement between the corporation and its highest paid star could come as early as today, as is predicted to include a review of the corporation's social media policy.
Well, joining us now, broadcaster and sports journalist Chris Scudder. Chris, good morning to you. You weren't offered to present Match of the Day on Saturday night, were you?
No, well, it's just what a weekend, Eamon. Incredible, really, that so many people. And what the BBC didn't really bargain for was that everybody rallied behind Gary Lineker. Extraordinary, really. He must be feeling pretty good about that, knowing that everyone seems to be on his side, certainly from the industry. Never known anything like it, really. As I was driving into London at the weekend, the 5 Live schedule going so late, literally no time to replace anything with anything. Podcasts going on air, people pulling out left, right and centre. And it went on all weekend as well. Of course, you probably saw yourself Match of the Day with no commentators, no presenters, nothing at all, and you just had the sound of the crowd. It was extraordinary stuff. It really was. And yesterday, a little bit of a climb down by some people. Interesting that the Women's Super League football was broadcast without presenters, but the commentary was there. A friend of mine, Nigel Adderley, was the commentator, but he had to go on. He felt he had to go onto social media last night to say, look, to get things straight, I wasn't employed by the BBC, but by the FA for their world feed, and he didn't really want the BBC to use his commentary, and said he was behind Gary Lineker. So an extraordinary weekend, and I think that the fact that so many people have walked out in support of Gary Lineker, then the BBC have nowhere to go, really.
This is the thing, people walking out in support, and I must say I was surprised as well, because in TV they would eat your granny, really, to get your job. And there's a lot of people there who had a lot to benefit from hosting Match of the Day. But the word went around, this was a poison chalice, don't touch it. And I'm not sure Gary would have been expecting the support that he did get. And certainly the BBC didn't bank on that, didn't reckon on that either.
Yeah, you're right it was an opportunity for other channels to say, tune into us. That's human nature, I guess. But yeah, it's like crossing the picket line, isn't it? As soon as Ian Wright said on Friday evening, I think, that he wasn't going to do it, it was like a pack of cards, really. It was. Shearer followed, then Alex Scott and all the others, and then the commentators as well. You have to feel a little bit for the staff members, because don't forget, a lot of these people working in this industry are freelance, so they backed Gary's stance, clearly. But if you're staff, I noticed that there was a commentary on the Fulham Arsenal radio commentary from the BBC yesterday, and I think Alistair Bruce Ball was the person that did that, and he said it was a very difficult decision, but as a staff member, he felt a little bit more compelled to do the job, and but they all want to serve the taxpayers, the public, who want to hear programmes. But yeah, Gary must be very bullish about the fact that everyone's come in behind him, and mutiny is probably not too strong a word from the staff.
Scott, to put this into sort of sporting terms of winners and losers, do you see Gary Lineker as being the winner in this? Can you see a deal? It's said to be satisfactory to him behind the scenes, but do you see a deal whereby he'll agree not to make these sorts of tweets in the future? Or do you think actually there's been a huge climb down on behalf of the BBC, and perhaps do you think even talk of heads rolling there?
Yeah, I think that the climb down certainly come on the BBC side, but what choice have they got when you had this mutiny, really? The trouble is, from the very start, the guidelines are just not very clear. And if you look at the original BBC statement, until we can agree a clear and agreed policy of his use of social media, it was vague. It was woolly in the first place. So I don't think he'll change his views too much. Maybe it'll just be his use of language, because I can see why some people got upset by what he said, but it was all in the minutiae, really, about the language used by 1930s Germany. But people, it's been politicised, hasn't it? The link to the Nazis, and you can see how the whole thing has been like a runaway train. But I don't think he'll change his policy too much. And maybe just his his use of words and what he, but I don't think there'll be any less tweeting from Gary. And I guess what we're looking at is a bit of a fudge here, a bit of a muddle through so they can get him back on air and this problem goes away as fast as possible for them, for the BBC.